Rich coming right back at you. And today, we gotta talk about Kevin Hart, this roast backlash, Katt Williams, Dame Dash, D.L. Hughley, and why a lot of people are looking at Kevin different right now. And I'm gonna say this right away. This is not about whether Kevin is successful or not, because he is. This is not about whether or not Kevin worked hard, because he did. This is about how a man can get so big, so rich, and so corporate that people start asking a very uncomfortable question. Who does Kevin Hart really answer to now? Because when you see Kevin Hart at that roast, taking things from people that look like they've been waiting years to say this to his face, it didn't feel like normal comedy to everybody. To some people, it felt like a humiliation ritual with a Netflix budget. Now let me be careful. I'm not saying I know Kevin Hart is compromised for a fact. I don't know what contracts he signed. I don't know what deals he made. I don't know who is in his ear behind closed doors. But I do understand why people are looking at this situation and saying something feels off. Because Kevin Hart has enough money, enough fame, enough power, and enough connections where people thought he would never have to sit in a room and let certain things happen under his name. But that roast happened. And now he's on camera defending it.
Were you surprised by people's reaction?
From the roast?
Yes.
Not from the people that aren't aware of what a roast is, right? Like,
I mean, the general public.
I'm not surprised, but here's where we're like falling into a weird space. Okay. The roast isn't a new format of comedy
At all.
The roast and roasting is a specific format that has existed for years.
Forever.
Right? Roasts are meant to be brutal. It is a style of comedy. It is hard hitting jokes that also have shock factor potential.
The black community is so proud of you right now. George Floyd is looking up at us all, laughing so hard that he can't breathe.
People should be upset like the George Floyd jokes.
I can say that some jokes weren't in the best taste. There was some that I wouldn't tell.
Mm-hmm.
Not my style, not what I would do. But some people are looking for that.
Right.
They're looking for that.
But let me say this. I talked to Cheryl. I think that those jokes about her husband, they hurt her feelings a little bit.
Her husband committed suicide 3 years into their marriage. I've been sitting next to her for 2 hours and I have to ask, how did he last that long?
I think a lot of people were taken aback by that joke.
You
that
should
it was,
be.
it was,
You should be. It's in poor taste, but that's how they roast now. I didn't know exactly what they were going to say. If you're going to go against my husband taking his life, let's talk about mental health.
So the jokes attached to Cheryl's husband and him passing, from my understanding, there were conversations with Cheryl, and Cheryl said, no, you're fine. Like, by the way, not my business. I don't know if it did or didn't, but from my understanding, it did. From my understanding, Cheryl was okay because a call was made. At the roast, okay, jokes get said. All right, oohs and ahs.
Kevin's defense is basically this. It was a roast. Roasts are supposed to be ugly. And you can't get mad when comedians do what comedians do. I understand that part. Roast comedy has always been disrespectful. Roasts are built on people saying things you usually wouldn't say in a normal setting. But here's where Kevin's defense starts getting weak. If this was really just anything goes, why were other jokes cut out? That's the part people can't get past. Because on one hand, Kevin is saying, remove me from it. I didn't say it. This is the nature of a roast. But on the other hand, reporting says multiple jokes were removed from the final version because they were too much or too sensitive. So now people are asking a fair question. Who decided that it was too far? Because somebody had control somewhere. Somebody made a decision that certain jokes should not stay in. But the George Floyd joke stayed. And that's why the backlash is not just about comedy. It's about selection. It's about priority. It's about what gets protected and what gets left on the screen for the black audience to swallow. That's where a lot of people felt disrespected because George Floyd is not just a name. That man's death was one of the most traumatic public moments in black American history. Most people watched a man die on camera. People marched the streets. People lost friends over arguments about the video. The whole world had to deal with what that meant. So when that name gets used as a punchline in a roast, and then Kevin Hart tells people, hey, that's just the format. That ain't gonna land well with everybody.
In this particular case, Kevin, he kept bragging on the Breakfast Club about how it was his production, right? That means he got to make decisions. There have been any number of roasts prior to this, whether it was the one about Donald Trump, whether it was the one with Joan Rivers, all of these people, including Tom Brady, said, these people are off limits. We don't like these jokes. Let's cut them. Just like Kevin did. There were a lot of jokes that were cut, including some regarding Tony Hinchcliffe himself and the military and vets. They listened to it, and all of them passed the sniff test. Well, not all of them, but George Floyd. And George Floyd represents so much to this country. The world basically stopped.
Right.
So you have a lot of people who are still suffering from anxiety, from trauma, especially the family. So for Kevin to get on that show and talk about it and then be so indignant about, no, I didn't hear the interview when Lauren said, did you hear the interview that I did with his family member? No, and now I won't listen to it. It was almost as if he was angry about the possibility of something that might have made him feel bad about his.
This is where the hypocrisy questions get loud. If jokes about Kevin, politics, or other celebrities could get cut, then why was that joke allowed to stand? I'm not saying Kevin personally sat there with a red pen and approved every line, but his name is on it. His company is attached to it. His platform benefits from it. So he can't completely separate himself from the final product when the final product is built around him. That's what people mean when they say accountability. They ain't saying Kevin told a joke. They're saying Kevin was part of the machine that put the roast in front of the world. And when you that powerful, I didn't say it is not always enough. That may work if you a guest on somebody else's stage. It don't work the same when the whole event is wrapped around your name. And then you add Katt Williams being there, and the whole thing gets even stranger. Because let's be honest, when Katt Williams got up there, a lot of that didn't feel like a roast. It felt like a man saying what he really believes with a smile on his face. Katt has been calling out Kevin Hart for years. He's questioned his rise. He has questioned who pushed him. He has questioned why certain people get placed in certain positions, while others get blackballed or pushed aside. So when Katt is sitting there roasting Kevin, people ain't just hearing jokes. They're hearing history. They're hearing years of allegations, rivalry, industry frustration, and public suspicion coming through comedy. That's why some of it felt too real. And that's why people are saying Kevin had to sit his ass there and take it. He had to laugh, he had to smile, and he had to play along. And for a man who was supposed to be one of the most powerful comedians in the world, that image did not make him look powerful to anybody. It made him look trapped by the very machine that made him rich. Now, D.L. Hughley pushing back matters too, because D.L. is not some random person online with a hot take. D.L. is a comedy veteran. He understands roast. He understands race. He understands how white comedians can get too comfortable playing with black pain when the room allows it. So when somebody like D.L. disagrees with how this was handled, that should not be brushed off like everybody is being sensitive.
Here's the thing. I said this. I think one of the questions you hear is, why are we, after 2 weeks, still talking about a George Floyd joke? The alternate question to that is, why after 6 years are we still doing them? So I understand that, but I am a performer. I've said any number of things that have been offensive. I don't like what happened. I don't know that I'd have laughed at it. First off, I wouldn't have had somebody that I was that opposed to on a roast, because a roast is an intimate thing. It's about friends and people kind of giving each other a hard time and fucking around. Especially when you knew what he would do and you knew what would happen. The things I come away with, and I said it last week, I don't like that you cut jokes, meaning you were trying to protect people. You aired it in the first iteration, but not the second, because you knew how controversial it would be.
DL's point matters because it's not just about comedy being offensive. Black comedy has always been sharp. Black people have been roasting each other before Netflix even existed. We know how to laugh through pain. We know how to make jokes in the middle of a struggle. But there's a difference between us processing our pain and somebody else using our pain to get a cheap laugh. That difference matters. And that is why Kevin's response felt too corporate to a lot of people. He kept defending the format. He kept talking about the job of producing a successful roast. He kept saying he didn't make the joke. But a lot of black people wanted to hear something else. They wanted to hear him say, I understand why they hurt. They wanted him to say, maybe we should have looked at this differently. They wanted to hear him sound like Kevin Hart, the black man, not Kevin Hart, the executive producer protecting the brand. That's the real disconnect. And that's why Dame Dash is looking at Kevin like, bro, what are you doing? Dame's whole argument has always been about ownership, cultural control, and not letting corporate structures make you compromise who you are. Now, Dame has his own issues. Dame ain't perfect. But when Dame talks about selling out, he's speaking from a place that a lot of people in hip-hop can't understand. He's saying Kevin Hart has enough money to say no. He's saying Kevin Hart should not have to sit in a room where his culture gets disrespected and then explain it away like it's just business. He's saying at some point, all this access has to turn into power. And power should give you the ability to refuse certain things. And I think that's why this criticism is sticking. Because people are not looking at Kevin Hart like he's broke. They're looking at him like he's too rich to keep making moves that look like somebody else is holding a remote.
It'd be funny, man, who people, they're supposed to be thorough, but they always fall for the devil. the double meaning money. If you fold for money, you're no longer cool. Your rock star status is taken if you'll do anything for the devil's dollar. I don't respect you. I don't think you cool. I don't give a how much money they give you to betray our culture. You are a goofy.
Dame is saying the thing that a lot of people are thinking, even if they would say it differently. Why would Kevin Hart need to do this? Why would a man with that much money, that much success, that much access, and that much control would put himself in a position where the culture is questioning his spine? That is why the word compromise keeps coming up. Again, I'm not saying it as a fact. I'm just saying that's how it looks to people. It looks like Kevin has reached a level where the deals are so big, the companies are so connected, and the corporate structure is so deep, he may not be as free as people thought he was. And that's a scary thought, because for years, Kevin Hart was presented as the example of what hard work could do. He was the small comedian from Philly who outworked everybody, built a movie career, built a production company, built partnerships, built a global brand. But now people are asking whether the brand got so big that the man inside of it can't move the way he really wants to move. That's the part that makes this feel different from normal backlash. This is not just Kevin made a bad joke. Kevin didn't even make the joke. This is about people questioning what Kevin stands for when his business interests and his cultural responsibility collide. Now, Kevin also talked about selling his name and explaining his deal structure. And I think that plays into why people are watching him so closely. They're looking at who owns that, who invested, who benefits. They're looking at whether the person is really the boss or just the face of a deal that makes them look like the boss. So when Kevin puts these deals out front, some people see that as transparency. Other people see it as damage control. They look at it like he knows people are going to call him a sellout, so he's trying to frame the deal before the internet frames the deal for him. And honestly, that's smart business. But smart business does not automatically make people respect the move culturally. That's the line Kevin is walking on right now. He may be winning financially and losing trust with a certain part of the black community. And that's a real problem for a black entertainer whose whole rise was built on people feeling like he was one of us. Look, I think Kevin Hart is in a tough place he helped create. He wants the freedom of a comedian, the power of a mogul, the protection of a producer, and the sympathy of a man who says, I didn't do it. But you can't have all that at the same time when your name is on the event. If the roast was successful, Kevin gets the credit. If the roast crossed the line, Kevin has to take accountability. That's how power works. You don't only own the win, you own the fallout too. And that is why this moment matters. It shows how complicated black success is when the money gets big enough. At first, everybody cheers you when you make it. Then people start watching what you do with power. Do you protect the culture or do you protect the company? And that's why this backlash is not going away anytime soon. Because people don't just want Kevin Hart to be funny anymore. They want to know who Kevin is answering to. They want to know if all that money made him more free or more owned. They want to know if he can still say no. And until he answers that in a way that feels real, people are going to keep looking at him sideways. But hey, that's just my opinion. What's yours? Like, comment, subscribe. Establish Rich. I'll be back with another one. Peace.